Have you ever caught yourself repeating an emotional pattern you promised you'd leave behind? Maybe it's the way you shrink when criticized, the fear of never being enough, or the quiet ache that visits you in moments of celebration or loneliness. Do you ever wonder where these feelings come from, why they linger even as you grow, succeed, or try to move forward? What if the answer isn't just in your choices or circumstances, but in a place far deeper, in the silent echoes of your earliest relationship? The truth is, many of us carry wounds that are so old, so familiar, that we barely recognize them as wounds at all. These are the mother wounds, the invisible scars left by unmet needs, misunderstandings, or emotional absence in our childhoods. And though society rarely speaks their name, their impact quietly shapes how we see ourselves and how we connect to others, even decades later. Picture this: a child, eyes bright, reaching out for comfort, for affirmation, for the safety of being, seen and loved just as they are. Now imagine those needs being only half met, or sometimes not met at all, not because of malice, but perhaps because of a mother's own pain, distractions, or limitations. Over time, the child learns to adapt, maybe by becoming the good one, always pleasing, or by hiding their true feelings for fear of rejection. They might grow up striving endlessly for approval, or always feeling like something inside them is missing, a quiet hunger for a kind of love that seems just out of reach. As adults, these silent scars show up in subtle but powerful ways. You might notice it in the relationships you choose, drawn to those who withhold affection, or feeling uncomfortable with true intimacy. Perhaps it's the voice in your head that criticizes every mistake, echoing old judgments that never really belonged to you. Or maybe it's a deep fatigue that comes from always trying to prove your worth, never able to rest in the certainty of being loved for who you are. And yet, most people never talk about this. We're taught to honor our mothers, to celebrate the bond, to overlook or explain away any pain as just the way things are. Society idealizes motherhood, often silencing those who struggle or suffer within it. If you've ever felt guilty for your hurt, or ashamed for needing more than you received, you are not alone. The mother wound is a secret carried by many, a silent legacy that shapes lives quietly, generation after generation. But here's the most important thing to know: these wounds are not a sentence. They are not proof of brokenness or failure. They are a story, waiting to be named and healed. And the first step is to bring them into the light, to ask the questions most are too afraid to ask. What if healing is possible? What if you could unmask the silent scars and reclaim the parts of yourself that still long for love, for safety, for acceptance? If you've ever felt a quiet ache you couldn't explain, this is your story. Let's begin. To understand the mother wound, we have to start at the beginning with the relationship that for most of us is our very first mirror. The bond between mother and child is universally celebrated in myth, psychology, and culture. It is said to be unconditional, unbreakable, the source of our first sense of safety and self. But what happens when that bond is strained, when a mother's love is filtered through her own pain, limitations, or unresolved trauma? Philosophers and psychologists alike have long recognized that our earliest relationships create the blueprint for every connection that follows. Attachment theory, pioneered by John Bowlby and expanded by Mary Ainsworth, teaches us that a child's sense of worth, belonging, and emotional safety is deeply shaped by the way their primary caregiver, so often the mother, responds to their needs. When a mother is nurturing, attentive, and emotionally available, the child learns, I am lovable. My needs matter. The world is a safe place. But when love is inconsistent, conditional, or absent, the lesson is far more complicated. Maybe I am too much. Maybe I am not enough. Maybe it is safer not to feel at all. The philosopher Carl Jung spoke of the mother complex, the powerful imprint left by the maternal relationship on our unconscious minds. He observed that, for many, wounds from the mother can manifest as lifelong struggles with self-worth, anxiety, or a restless search for validation. These wounds are not always the result of cruelty. Sometimes they are born from subtle neglect, emotional absence, or a mother's own inability to give what she never received herself. Culture plays a role too. Many societies place mothers on a pedestal, making it difficult to talk about anything less than perfection. This idealization not only silences those who are hurting, but can cause mothers to deny or hide their own struggles, passing pain down in ways that are hard to name. When children grow up believing their pain is unique or worse, that it is their fault, they learn to bury their feelings and wear a mask for the world. But the truth is, no mother is perfect. All mothers are human, shaped by their own stories, wounds, and circumstances. The mother wound is not about blame or anger. It is about understanding the chain of unmet needs and inherited pain that can quietly govern our lives. If we never pause to reflect, we risk repeating the same patterns with our own children, partners, and friends. Healing begins when we acknowledge that these wounds exist. It is not an act of betrayal to seek answers. It is an act of courage. By questioning old stories and exploring the root of our emotional pain, we begin to see that the mother wound is not a life sentence, but a doorway to greater compassion for ourselves and for those who came before us. By shining a light on the root causes personal, psychological, and cultural, we open the possibility of transformation. Healing the mother wound is not only possible, it may be the most powerful step we can take toward living and loving more freely. Step into any family gathering, scroll through social media, or listen to conversations about childhood, and you'll notice something strange. We celebrate the ideal of motherhood, but rarely make space to talk honestly about its complexities and its pain. This silence isn't accidental. Society builds a pedestal for mothers, often placing them at the center of our emotional worlds, while simultaneously making it taboo to admit when that experience was anything less than perfect. People with mother wounds often sense this contradiction early on. You might have grown up in a household where appearances mattered more than truth, where don't talk back and be grateful were lessons repeated so often they became law. Even as children, we learn to protect our mother's feelings, to ignore our own confusion, hurt, or anger for fear of seeming ungrateful. Over time, this training turns inward. We dismiss our own pain. We minimize the impact of cold words, silent disappointments, or emotional distance. In adulthood, the consequences of this cultural silence become clearer. The wounds left by mothers intentional, or not often, live in the shadows. They show up as an inability to set boundaries, a chronic fear of disappointing others, or a deep-rooted sense of not being enough. Friendships might feel unsatisfying. Romantic relationships might repeat patterns of chasing approval or fearing abandonment. The ache of the mother wound can echo quietly through our lives, shaping our choices in ways we barely notice. Yet, when someone tries to name this pain, they often encounter resistance, not only from family, but from friends, partners, and society at large. But she did her best. At least she was there. All mothers struggle. The message is subtle, but unmistakable. Keep the wound hidden. Keep the story tidy. Don't rock the boat. For many, this leads to a double isolation, first in childhood, and then again in adulthood, when speaking the truth risks being labeled as ungrateful, dramatic, or disloyal. This silence doesn't only affect individuals. It echoes through entire communities and generations. When we are taught not to question the family narrative, we lose the chance to heal and to break the cycle. Mothers who have not faced their own wounds may unconsciously pass them to their children, perpetuating patterns of emotional absence, control, or criticism. The mother wound becomes a family secret, passed quietly from one generation to the next. Yet, amid all this, there is hope. In recent years, more voices are breaking the silence through books, therapy, support groups, and brave conversations. Online, it's becoming possible, even necessary, to talk honestly about the pain that mothers can cause, without reducing them to villains or dismissing their humanity. Recognizing the reality of the mother wound is not about assigning blame or rewriting history. It's about claiming the right to your own feelings, your own story. Only by naming what was missing, what hurt, and what still lingers, can you start to move toward healing. The silence ends the moment you tell the truth first to yourself, and then, if you choose, to others. Recognizing and naming the mother wound is a profound act of awakening, but it comes at a cost. When you first allow yourself to see and feel the pain that's long been hidden, it can feel like the ground beneath your life begins to shift. This is not a simple intellectual realization. It is an emotional earthquake that can shake the foundations of your identity, your family story, and even your sense of belonging. There is grief, the mourning of a childhood you wished you had, or the unconditional love that never quite materialized. There may be anger, sometimes raw and surprising, as you finally give yourself permission to feel what you once denied in order to keep the peace. Guilt often follows, especially if you are taught to protect your mother's feelings or to never criticize the people who raised you. The heart can feel torn between loyalty to the person who gave you life and honesty about what you needed, but did not receive. This awakening can make you feel isolated, even from those closest to you. Family members may not understand or may push back, unwilling to revisit old wounds. Friends may urge you to let it go, not realizing that healing requires acknowledgement, not avoidance. You may find yourself questioning your memories, doubting your feelings, or worrying that you are being too sensitive. The world does not always welcome the person who breaks the silence, and so the journey can be lonely. Internally, facing the mother wound demands that you dismantle long-held beliefs about yourself. If you spent years striving to be good enough for someone whose love felt conditional, it takes time to believe that your worth isn't dependent on meeting anyone else's expectations. If you learn to suppress your needs or to accept emotional crumbs, it takes courage to finally say, "My needs matter. My feelings are valid." Sometimes the most painful part of this process is realizing just how deeply the wound has shaped your life, how it colored your relationships, your sense of self, even your view of the world. Yet, this pain is not just destruction. It is also the clearing away of old debris, the breaking of ground for something new. The cost of awakening is high, but it opens the door to transformation. When you name the wound, you free yourself from repeating it. You begin to build boundaries, not as walls against love, but as gates that protect what is real and allow in what is good. You discover self-compassion, recognizing that you did not cause your wounds, but you have the power to heal them. Every act of courage, every honest conversation, every tear shed, every page of a journal filled with truths long denied moves you closer to freedom. It may take time, and it will not always be easy, but the cost of awakening is the price of becoming fully yourself. And in that, there is profound hope. As you walk through the fire of awakening, a new kind of strength begins to grow. The journey of facing the mother wound is not just about understanding the past, but about reclaiming your right to live fully and authentically in the present. This is the turning point, the place where pain becomes power and honesty becomes freedom. You begin to realize that your story is not defined solely by what you lacked, but by your courage to seek healing. You see that honoring your needs and feelings does not diminish your love for your mother. Rather, it is a way of honoring the truth of your own heart. In choosing authenticity over old patterns, you learn to become the nurturing presence for yourself that you may have missed in childhood. Empowerment comes when you stop waiting for someone else, mother, partner, friend to finally give you the love, validation, or understanding you needed. Instead, you turn inward and discover that you can offer these things to yourself. This is the work of reparenting your inner child, of tending to old wounds, with kindness, patience, and fierce self-compassion. When you speak gently to the parts of yourself that once felt invisible or unworthy, you break the chain of inherited pain and make space for a new story. The process may inspire you to set new boundaries, not as punishment, but as protection for your well-being. You learn to say no to what drains or diminishes you, and yes to what supports your healing. You stop over-explaining, over-giving, or shrinking yourself for acceptance. Your relationships shift, some grow deeper, founded on honesty and real connection. Others may fall away, unable to adapt to the new, stronger you. Through it all, you come to trust that your worth is inherent, not dependent on anyone else's approval. Authenticity means allowing yourself to grieve, to be angry, to forgive not out of obligation, but out of choice. It means letting go of the fantasy of a perfect mother and embracing the reality of your own imperfect but powerful journey. In doing so, you become free to receive love in new ways, from friends, partners, chosen family, and most importantly, from yourself. As you move forward, remember that healing the mother wound is not about erasing the past, but about transforming your relationship with it. You may never get the apology or the closeness you hoped for, but you can still build a life that is honest, whole, and open to joy. The silent scars lose their power when you meet them with presence and compassion. This is your invitation. Choose to live as your truest self, unmasked and unashamed. Let your healing become a light for others, proof that it is possible to move beyond pain and into peace. You are not broken. You are becoming whole. And in this wholeness, you are free. As our journey comes to a close, take a quiet moment to honor how far you've come. Unmasking the silent scars of the mother wound is one of the most courageous things you can do. It's not about blame or resentment. It's about choosing truth, healing, and a future that isn't chained to the past. The mother wound, for many, remains hidden in the shadows, passed down, denied, or dismissed. But the moment you name it, the cycle begins to break. You create space for new choices, new ways of being, and new definitions of love. Each step you take, from honest self-reflection to setting gentle boundaries, is a powerful act of reclaiming your life. Remember, healing is not linear. There may be days when old feelings return, when grief or anger visits unexpectedly. On these days, remind yourself, growth is rarely comfortable, but every moment of self-compassion plants a seed for a different future. The mother wound does not have to be your legacy. It can become the beginning of your most authentic self. You are not alone on this path. All over the world, people are waking up to the silent wounds they've carried. Communities are forming. Books are being written. Conversations are opening. If you need support, seek out therapy, support groups, or trusted friends. Let your voice join the quiet chorus of others who are choosing healing over silence. Here's your invitation to action. Start small. Name your feelings in a journal. Share your story with someone who can listen without judgment. Celebrate each act of courage, no matter how minor it seems. Notice the moments when you honor your own needs, whether that's saying no, taking a break, or giving yourself the love you once sought from others. Over time, these small acts add up to big transformation. If this message resonates with you, consider sharing it. There are countless others who still believe they're alone in their pain. By speaking your truth, you give them permission to begin their own healing journey. Healing the mother wound isn't just for you. It echoes outward, changing families, communities, and future generations. So as you walk forward, carry this truth. The mother wound is real, but so is your power to heal. You are worthy of love, not because of what you do or how well you please others, but because you exist. You have a right to your feelings, your boundaries, your dreams. The journey to wholeness isn't easy, but it is yours to claim. Thank you for choosing the path of honesty and courage. May your healing bring peace not only to you, but to everyone touched by your light. The silent scars are not the end of your story. They are the place where something new can finally begin.